Hello, this is David D. Hilster. I am a critical thinker, dissident scientist, and if you are not science woke, then this is the place for you. There are literally thousands and thousands of scientists from around the world who have been working for decades outside the mainstream, who have identified problems, fixed those problems, and who are proposing new theories and models. You won't find anything like this on YouTube, so you want to make sure you want to go down and click on the subscribe button below and the little bell next to it, and you'll be alerted to when our next video drops. Well, once in a while when I'm doing my studies or I'm writing stuff up for our new sciencewoke.org website and trying to put some information about some really science woke dudes, I was looking up I can't even say his name, Halton Arp. Say that real fast 3 times. And I found that, wait a minute, they had an article about when he died in 2013 in the New York Times. Oh, they must have loved him, but I knew they didn't love him. So this is a great article to show you the love and hate relationship people have when you find what we call anomalies. Anomalies aren't anomalies. There's no anomaly in the universe. As my father said, there's the universe. What we find are things that our theory says should happen, and look at something else is happening. So that's what Mr. Halton Arp was doing, and he challenged the Big Bang. Yay, I don't have my button to push and those sound effects. But who is Halton Arp? Well, he is an astronomer. He was an American-born astronomer. He lived a lot of his life in Germany, worked in California, and he got his degrees from Harvard and CalTech, so he's no nincompoop, so people had to respect him. And he created an atlas of peculiar galaxies, which we'll talk about, but he pretty much found something about quasars and redshift and galaxies that didn't support the Big Bang. But let's read this article because the article gives you a real good insight as to how the mainstream deals with these mavericks, which they got to sort of recognize. You know who another one's just like that is Samuel Warren Carey of Expansion Tectonics. He was a great geologist, and they couldn't throw that away, so they go, yeah, and then he dabbled in the occult, which is this idea that the Earth's expanding, even though the data is absolutely clear and points to all that, But so Halton Arp is another person in that realm where he's in Wikipedia, and they mention, of course, he was against the big man. So let's read this article. Just see, the first sentence tells it all. Halton C. Arp, a provocative son of American astronomy whose dogged insistence that astronomers had misread the distances to quasars, cast doubt upon the Big Bang theory in the universe that led to his exile from his peers and from the telescopes he loved. Died December 28th in Munich. He was 86. Now you can see they are just, already setting this guy up. Exiled, provocative, doubt of the Big Bang. Come on. And if you keep reading on this, you're going to find out that, it's much of the same. As staff astronomer for 29 years, Hale observatories, which included Mount Wilson and Palomar Mountain Observatories in Southern California, Dr. Arp was part of the most romantic era when astronomers were peeling back the sky and making discovery after discovery that led to the foundation of modern understanding of the expansion of the universe. So what is this? He's in the romantic lost area. So he's in the past, and he's died now. He's 86. And he just didn't buy the new modern foundation of. This is just incredible how they write this stuff. I'm going to keep going. Don't stop, Dave. But Dr. Arp, I'm always going to say Halton Arp, but Dr. Arp, an artist's son, was with a swashbuckling air, was no friend of orthodoxy. A skilled observer with regular access to 2,200, boy, that'd be a big one, 200-inch telescope, he saw unusual galaxies and put them in the Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, which I'll show you a little bit about, showing that there was interaction of merging loop swirls and revealed the diversity and beauty of nature. Remember, he was in that romantic area. He wasn't in the solid science that we have today, and that's why he was lost, and he was wrong. But these galaxies also reveal something puzzling and controversial in the expanding universe as discovered by Edwin Hubble. Of course, it was discovered. It wasn't conjectured, and it wasn't still conjectured from redshift, and saying that redshift is because of speed, which is a theory, which is a conjecture, which is a not proof, but of course they say discovered. See, read between the lines, critical thinkers, that everything is moving away from us. The further away it is, the faster it's going, and revealed by the redshift, a stretching of light waves like the changing tone of an ambulance siren as it goes past, known as the Doppler shift. We talked about this. Dr. Arp found galaxies that were with radically different redshifts and thus vastly different distances from us, often appeared connected by filaments of bridges of gas. Often appeared. Of course, they see redshift, and which is could be movement, and they say they discovered that, and they talk about that often appeared to be connected by filaments. So you can see they weasel word what they don't want to believe, and they put these solid words and solid English and solid linguistic constructions around those things that they want to push as modern physics. That suggested, he said, that the redshift was not always an indication of distance, but could be caused by other unknown physics. Oh my gosh, a critical thinker. You're going to have to see, there's more to this. You got to stay around. Don't go away, folks. This gets even better. And it's not this. I'm going to show you another article that is completely opposite of this. And this is somewhat praising in the New York Times. The biggest redshifts belong to quasars, brilliant pinpoint objects that are presumed to be at the edge of the universe. Dr. Arp found, however, that they were often suspiciously close to the sky, close in the sky to relatively nearby spiral galaxies. This suggested that quasars were not far away from, after all, and that they may be shot out of the nearby galaxies, which actually is quite a good hypothesis. If he was right, the whole picture of the cosmic evolution given by the Big Bang of the universe that began in a blaze of fire. The Big Bang began in a blaze of fire. It sounds like, a campfire where you put some s'mores in it or something. And gas, 14 billion years ago, and slowly condensed into stars, galaxies, and creatures over the eons. That would have to go out the window, all of that. And of course, the problem with the Big Bang, too, is, well, wait a minute, it condenses stars blow up. We have a whole life cycle that we teach in astronomy about stars and planets and all that, but somehow they condensed into these things. Well, if it was a Big Bang, why do we see life cycles of stars? How many problems can you have? The majority of the astronomers dismissed Arp's results as coincidences or optical illusions. Yeah, because, it just happened to be. But his data appealed to a small, articulate band of astronomers who supported a rival theory of the universe called steady state and criticized the Big Bang for Big Bang over decades. Of course, now they died, so maybe this was the whole guy's. The last guy died who believed that Earth is in the middle of the solar system. Among them, Fred Hoyle of Cambridge University, who invented the theory, and Geoffrey Burbridge, a witty and acerbic astrophysicist at the University of California, San Diego. Dr. Arp survived them both. See, he's the last one. Gone. When he died, he took a whole cosmology with him. See? That's what they want to show. That's why they wrote this article. It's dead. We can throw this away. The last person who believed it's dead. It's the end of an era. Dr. Arp became a staff astronomer at Hale Observatory, postdoctoral, blah, blah, blah. His breakthrough occurred, as he recalled, on a rainy day, and he talks about, looking up in the Palmer, and he realized that many of the radio sources from quasars could have been shot out by nearby galaxy. That's what he was saying. So you're seeing these quasars, and they could be from galaxies. It is with, and this is what he says. Sad that he has to say it this way. It is with reluctance that I have come to the conclusion that the redshifts of some extragalactic objects are not due entirely to velocity causes. Saying that redshift may not be, in fact, velocity. It's really interesting, too. Have you noticed that redshift, the further things are away, the more redshift they have? And we say it's the accelerating expansion. Well, that doesn't make sense. It makes much more sense that light makes things redshift, and the further and further it travels, it gets more redshifted just because of the way light travels. He combed the sky for more evidence. Redshifts were not ironclad indicators of cosmic distance, knowing that he was striking at the heart of modern cosmology. He turned out to be an expert at finding quasars in suspicious places tucked under the arm of a galaxy or at the end of a tendril of gas, which is kind of is what he was pointing out, and they're saying it. They're saying that it's sort of attached to these tendrils of gas and all that, to galaxies that should be way closer than the quasars themselves, but they seem to be attached. But they weren't attached. Read between the lines. The Redshift Conference came to a boil in 1972 when Dr. Arp engaged in a debate. Oh, this is where it all went. It exploded. Arranged by the American Association for the Advancement of Science, AAAS. Remember, they have a article. One of my videos talks about that. They did an article about John Chappell, the guy who founded our organization. And with a young John Bacall, a young physicist at the Institute of Advanced Study. Timothy Ferris described the event in his book, The Red Limit. When the debate was over, it was difficult not to be impressed with Arp's sincerity and his love for mysterious galaxies he studied, but it was also difficult to feel that his case had suffered anything short of demolition. I'm going to have to read that book. I haven't read it. As Dr. Octoroy lost patience with his quest, he was no longer invited to speak at major conferences. His observing time on the mighty 200-inch telescope began to dry up. Warned in the 1980s his research program was unproductive, he refused to change course. You mean he was trying to stick by what he thought was the truth? Finally, he refused to submit a proposal on the grounds that everyone knew what he was doing. He got no time at all. Dr. Arp took early retirement, joined the Planck Institute for Astrophysics near Munich, where he continued to promote his theories. He told his own story in the Redshift story in his book, Quasars, Redshifts, and Controversies. Great book. Should read it. You can find his atlas and peculiar galaxies at CalTech on their website. So this is why he is in the Wikipedia. And if you go on that page, which looks like it's from about 1985, no, it can't be. Sorry. Web pages started in early 1990s. Okay, in the mid-90s, here are the links to it. Hasn't been updated. It's been sort of abandoned in its old form. Remember the Romantic era where everyone's wrong? And here, if you click on them, you get these things, which are really, what he saw at the time. And of course, there's the Atlas of Peculiar Galaxies, which actually is on the and Wikipedia as well. And you can see even better photos of those galaxies because we got better telescopes now. But let's go to another article. It was just before he died, a couple years before he died. And let's read what they really think. One of the astronomers' pet crackpot theories, non-cosmological quasar redshifts. Talking about those redshifts in quasar. The non-cosmological quasar redshifts? You can't. So let's listen to somebody who, this is much more really what happened. The New York Times was tiptoeing. This is what Arp really faced. In the standard Big Bang theory of cosmology, a theory that explains a wide range of observations, except for a lot of things that it doesn't, which is a lot of things. Distant objects show a shift in observed wavelengths of feature in their spectrum as a result of the expansion of the universe. That is a hypothesis. It ain't fact, but see how they write it? And that's the first thing that comes out of this. They are going to tell you the truth. These crackpots. In between the time when light is emitted by the distant object and the time we see that light, the universe expands. The wavelength of the light goes up by a relative factor that has the same value as a relative expansion in the size in the size of the universe. This effect is called cosmological shift. Because the universe has always been expanding, we can use this to measure the distance of the object, to measure how far back in time we are looking. The more the redshift we see, the more the universe is expanded, and thus the more time the universe was expanding while the light was on its way to us, and thus the longer trip there was. Astronomy has long had a handful of fringe scientists who argue that at least some of the redshifts we see are non-cosmological in origin. In particular, Halton Arp, most famous for his catalog of galaxies with distributed morphology. Not peculiar, distributed morphologies. Oh, the people. It just gives me so little faith in humankind and science. I'm glad there are a lot more people. I hope these are the few and not the many. So, but argues that quasars aren't really cosmologically distant objects at all, but are rather objects ejected from nearby galaxies, showing their redshifts as a result of an extreme Doppler shift due to their high ejection velocities. He based this originally on anecdotal observations. Oh, sort of like redshift, anecdotal, of quasars, which are much higher redshifts, seemingly correlated with much more nearby galaxies in the sky. Again, that same idea that the redshift's too big on the quasar, and it was next to its galaxy where it was shot out. For a long time, it was hard to test those correlations quantitatively, for the selection effects were huge. By and large, we targeted interesting objects, but there were other interesting objects in the field. So, of all the quasars known, there are an observational bias that would have been known near the objects that were observed for other reasons, meaning there was other reasons, maybe those filaments and all that stuff. Well, the article goes on. You can read it. It's pretty much tries to destroy this idea. But here is a critical thinker back in February 17th of 2011. Congratulations, George Lamb, for being a critical thinker. I am dismayed that crack pottery is being used as part of a so-called scientific argument. Absolutely true. It should be the reader that concludes this, and not the author who tries to foist this description upon them. Absolutely. Anytime you hear people calling you names, like I have certain fans of mine on the internet that call me all kinds of names, that's not science. That's not debate. It's not interesting. It doesn't lead to anything. It only shows the person has no ability to debate science in any way. If there's one thing I have learned from science, it is that it is not always concrete and final in its theories. Looking further into the literature, not popular websites, it appears that the discussion is not over. That means he went out and looked at things himself. For the record, I have not thoroughly read through and assess all the arguments. I will accept that they may even be wrong. But hopefully, if they are wrong, it is for good scientific reasons, and not because someone considers the author to be a fringe scientist crackpot. And therein lies the problem of mainstream science. Because they have such great fear that what they are doing is a house of cards and that it can fall down, they are like gangs. When it is a fact that talking with police officers, and you talk about gang members, when they find one gang member alone, he's really a weak person normally. It's easy person to apprehend, to control, to dominate, to talk with, etc. But when the gang people get together, then they're all tough. And that's the way these people are. So they get together, they bad talk you, they don't want to argue with you because they don't want to look at truth. They don't want to look at the possibility that the Big Bang could in fact be wrong. But I thought this was really great because we have a person, a dissident scientist, Halton Arp, who made it to the New York Times. And they had to deal with him. In the New York Times right there, they're a little bit tiptoey. That last article that I showed you, however, that's the way in the world he lived in. And thank goodness we were able to give him the Sanyak Award in 2011 or 2012. He wasn't doing well. Dr. Peter Marquardt, one of our members of the CMPS, I think was there to give them that award. And we applaud him for being a dissident thinker. And in fact, we believe he is absolutely right. The Big Bang is wrong, and that redshift is caused by something else. There's too many problems, and it is not a fact that the universe is expanding. So remember what I say. Don't take my word for it, these guys' words for it, or anybody. Do like that one guy said at the end of the article. Go out and assess it yourself. Keep your open mind, as I think Aristotle, wasn't he the one that says a brilliant mind or a great scientific mind is one who can entertain an idea without first accepting it? Stay critical, stay thinking. I'm Dave D. Hilster. I'm your science therapist. Ciao for now.